dive on into a series I know a lot of people were ready and excited for. We start in the top left-hand side with the red Zerg play, and he's gonna open 12 pool. It's Serral taking on a no scout PartinG in the bottom right. Our blue Protoss player, don't tell me, is he gonna go gas first, because that would be really bad. And no early probe at all is obviously already kind of crazy. Okay, he is going to go gate first, so he should scout after gateway to see at least a little bit of what's going on here. PartinG has died so many deaths to the gas first, being greedy, no scout. So yeah, there's going to be a 12 pool opener in Serral. I mean, he will be seen. Obviously, this probe comes across the map quickly, but his lings will get across the map quick as well, even if figured out. And follow-up here should be a wall completed, Cybercore second gateway, and we'll see that will delay the Nexus. Obviously, the hatchery is delayed here as well. 6 lings on the way up. This drone going to go to the low ground, and PartinG not going to fall, turning around to try and block it. So PartinG doesn't get that to, doesn't kind of miss the scout and information. He sees exactly what's up. Serral will now drop the hatchery. And we do see the ling is going to move across. Now the probe is still there. He's going to leave Serral one ling to go and chase that probe down. So keep track of it. Make sure no sneaky pylons come up. And there's that wall up. Leaves the gap on this side, so the Zealot can walk straight into that gap. Get in there right away. And this 12 pool coming straight across at PartinG very quickly here now. So the Zealot obviously will want to dance and try and protect the gateway. And that's why Serral fights over on this side to try and pull the Zealot out of the wall. He actually forces some probes to come out here, so PartinG with the probes as well. There's going to be some lost mining time then. And you've got to look at every little thing right now as a way for Serral to take an advantage, because this has not been something which has done what he wanted it to do, right? This is definitely not a huge amount of damage, and as Adepts now start, you've also got to be very wary of the counter-attack. 2 Zealots and 2 Adepts walking across the map, they can get some kills for sure. Serral doing what he can at the front. His own hatch about to finish, 7 drones behind at the moment, but is of course on that hatchery at least. Nexus just now started from PartinG, so Serral will have some time to play catch-up, but definitely not what you're looking for with the initial opening. Definitely not where you want to be. He does keep the lings alive, which I like, because like I said, the Adept Zealot follow-up can be very scary. It's actually just 1 Adept, so it doesn't make the second one. And maybe because he feels as though Serral's already keeping a lot of lings alive, the second Adept just doesn't really come into much use or anything like that. Speed building on the spawning pool. I'm just going to see our lings moving around a little bit. And Adept is going to shade up into the main base. The lings get there to turn it around, and just still seeing the Nexus. Chrono boosting on the main. Getting a bunch of extra probes out here. Twilight Council into the main as well, as the Overlord of Serral continues to the bottom right-hand side. A couple of gates continuing to set up. Ling speed still coming into play here. The Adept is able to get the creep tumor at the front, so actually that's a nice kill. It slows down a lot of the creep that you'd like to have as Serral moving out, so Adept getting a good denial. Follow-up going to be Twilight Council into the Robo. Serral will give an Overlord to see this, so gets full information as to what the possibilities are, but of course this could be either Glaives or a Dark Shrine, so the choice there is still open. I didn't realize this Adept just came in for a few drone kills. That was quite nice, getting 3 drones. So a few drones going down, and wow, he's actually going to go blink. So PartinG's going to go for a 2 base all in on the follow-up. Basically saying like, hey, Serral, you don't have the economy to hold off like a big 2 base attack, so he's going to go blink for it. This should be with 7 gateways or so. There's no kind of 4 gate blink into like a follow-up or anything. That just doesn't really exist, so yeah. Definitely something that Serral's probably not expecting, but he is building the Rotoron in preparation anyway. Similar builds off to the side. We do see the Rotoron about to complete from Serral in the natural, and getting a few lings at the front. Overlord building from Serral in the natural too. A couple extra stalkers coming out. These gates going to be finishing shortly. We do just see the prism is building, so that blink is continuing up here. I'm actually kind of shocked this is only 4 gates. I'm still expecting to see like 2 or 3 more come down at some stage. I actually feel like this is just 4 gates of Blink Stalkers, then I'm not really as worried as I once was, because then I just feel like Serral can get the numbers up to deal with this. He is on his way to a lair, his third hatchery finally about to finish. He's obviously limited on the drones he can build when only on 2 bases, right? So Serral, while 38 drones doesn't sound like a lot, it is full saturation for what he's currently working with. 16 on each mineral patch, 3 in each gas. There's 1 gas on each base so far. Now he sees the stalker count, and now as Serral, you absolutely know what's up. I feel like he cut drones at a good point, 38 still, right? Because he was just 2 bases. I guess my major concern is maybe the fact he's a couple workers behind is concerned against an, what could be an efficient composition such as stalkers. There's 5 gates in the end, so it is a little bit more than the 4. I guess I miscounted. So 5 gates in total. This is kind of a tough call. I mean, obviously a lot of this comes down to micro and how you fight and how you pick your fights, Serral. Don't think he wants to really force fights, right? I think he typically wants to be the one who, as this is a nice pick off on the observer, so he'll keep some of his creep alive. I think he's the one that wants to let PartinG fight into him. If you go chasing, PartinG's going to be able to just kind of kite back, link away. Serral relocates to the 3rd, knows that's where PartinG is going to try next. He will lose this Spore Crawler, but it's not like there's anything that you need that Spore Crawler for yet. He could add a Dark Shrine eventually, and maybe then you'd want it. This is a Ravager, and those are the sort of picks which PartinG's really hoping for here. Is the Ling's not making a play. The Lings are just sat to the side waiting. Not doing anything just yet, and you'd imagine they need to kind of come into play. They're going to go across the map, maybe? Counter-attack into the front. I mean, PartinG's realizing he hasn't seen these Lings for an eternity, so he's like, okay. I don't think Serral goes across. I think he's just going to come in for the surround. He loses the hatchery, though. That's obviously a pretty big deal. These Lings went a step too far, and now the Lings are going to continue to chase in. A couple corrosive files going down. Their Stalkers blink down to the south. Serral losing the 3rd hatch is already huge. And there's the Dark Shrine follow-up. I mentioned as a possibility, especially when you're sniping those spores. You've got, it's got to be something on your mind. You're like, oh, I'm killing the spore crawlers, huh? Definitely something I can do with that, as these Lings. Well, now, do they go at you across the map? They might be able to cancel the 3rd. Keep this 2 bases each. Not that that's exactly ideal for the Zerg's point of view. I don't think he even expects PartinG to be on a 3rd. He's going to bring these Lings back up. The Warp Prism just off to the side. Stalkers. Well, of course, they can't blink out of this part. Serral is, again, unwilling to fight with these Lings. He's continuing to click them around. Going to run in. A lot of these Stalkers will start to die now, so he's finally getting a trade at least. Can he take this and make it something that can go across the map? Well, he has a lair, so he can build the Overseer if necessary to detect the DTs, and that's obviously a pretty big advantage. That's something that could really help out. The one thing that can't happen, though, is that DTs walk in, and then he has to then morph the Overseer while they're already killing drones, because then you're going to be on way too few workers. I mean, he already kind of is. He's 20 workers down from PartinG. 34 versus 55. Kind of shocked to see gases in an evolution chamber being made, because I don't see how Serral really draws up from this at all. 700 minerals in the bank. No lava to spend. If he cancelled the 3rd base, then maybe, right? Because then PartinG can't really go to this higher worker count as easily, but pulled the Lings back instead, and with the Lings pulling back home, you just can't really... I mean, you can fight the Stalkers, yes, but then the 3rd gets up, and I feel like that's an issue of its own. DTs are going into the main base. There's no detection ready as far as I'm aware. The only thing to stop this are the Queens that are in kind of a good position. He's going to kill the Prism. So only 2 of the 3 DTs drop down. The Queens go running, loses 1 very quickly, misses the transfusion there on the front. Roaches and Rav just start to press forward. They get a Stalker at the same time. But now Serral's low drone count is being forced to run around in circles. He will not kill the DTs before the recall. Good save from PartinG. Going into Disruptors as a follow-up as well. So just getting continued tech being brought in with the 2 DTs. You can morph in an Archon, of course. Again, the Stalkers of PartinG continuing to move around in the middle of the map. Some Lings. Get pushed around in this bottom side. Stalkers setting up over there and intercepting a few of them. 6 more Stalkers in production. So those extra Stalkers are going to finish up and start rallying out into the middle of the map. And, well, you look at Serral's army. Roach, Ravager, couple of Queens. Creep Tumors are wanting to set up. He wants to get some map control going again. And the good thing for Serral is with the lair, he has roach speed, right? So he at least has some mobility on these units. He tries to get up into the missile upgrade. He tries to get into the Baneling Nest. Just got to look at that income and realize PartinG's been taking more and more of a lead with it this entire time. Then maybe you could argue that Stalkers aren't great, but Stalker Disruptor as a composition works just fine. It can trade perfectly well against the Zerg, so it might not be your everyday go-to comp, but it's not, one that PartinG's just picked up off the street and is trying to make work. There should be a composition that trades well enough to keep in an okay position as PartinG just goes for fourth base. I do like what Serral's doing with this army though, right? He's really trying to catch the Stalkers. Forces a blink. Tried not to show the units over here just yet because he doesn't want to get them blinked on. So he continues to run away. Again, keeping units in multiple places. Trying to make something happen as he fights for his own fourth hatchery. Making that transition through into Baneling speed, melee upgrade. And after just a couple disruptors, we already see extended thermal lance and movement to Colossi. I mean, Serral is not really ready to try and fight Colossi with anything in particular just yet, right? There's definitely no tech on the map, which is like, oh yeah, this can, you know, do perfectly great against Colossus. No, there's not really anything at all, actually. Couple of bows going in, Stalker's getting pushed back already. Some more bows dropping down there. Serral's roaches, lings back around the south side. The Stalkers want to come back in. Now we've got these lings and roaches that are going to come in from the other side. Where does PartinG go to? He has to run off to the left. Hey, this is interesting, though, because now PartinG Stalkers are kind of trapped in the bottom side of the map, right? Like, where are they going to go? They can blink over these roaches, maybe? I think that's his best bet, to blink over these roaches. And Serral kind of knows it, so he's positioning his units there. PartinG gets trapped in the bottom left corner, and Serral's army movement has been fantastic to set this up. And now he's got lings streaming in. Those Stalkers are going to keep on running, but that's a lot of kills. I mean, the attempt to recall in the end, he gets a couple final Stalker picks. Good effort from Serral, because he was fighting for that surround for a long time. He's been trying to set it up for an eternity, and eventually he got there. He eventually got there as pulling back up through the top side. We're going to see melee upgrade is not far from finishing. 13 more Ravagers. I mean, it's going to be go time soon, right? 2 more Colossi in production. There's already 2 Disruptors and 1 Colossus on the map. Serral is maxed out. He's going to need a ton of Banelings if he wants to crash through an army like this. He adds on a bunch more drones, so he's keeping his work count competitive in the game. Just trying to set up the Lings and Ravagers, moving out down to the bottom. Corrosive piles en masse. I mean, you got to look at Serral's army as well and be like, man, that's a lot of Ravagers, right? How often do you see not a single Roach, but 27 Ravagers in play? I mean, in a way, that means there's no tankiness of Roaches in there, but it's also going to be a ton of Corrosive Piles. It's almost impossible to engage. Serral just draws this game out. Infestation Pit, Spire on the way. This one makes Serral so fun to watch, but that's a disrupt to the Lance dead center on the Ravagers. That's not the start you want to Serral. He's trying to flank in with some of these Banelings from Force Field are dropping down. The Corrosive Files are disgusting on the army. A few of those Banes getting in as well, but Serral doesn't kill much. He's down 30 supply. The Disruptors are going to be recharged as well. I think the Colossi just do too much. And as much as we've had some good moments here from Serral, it's just such a deficit he's playing from this entire time. And he did a lot of things to make it close and competitive, but he was going to need a big fight here, and he just never really found it. PartinG is dealing with the Banelings well. Lings and Ravagers still screaming in. Wow, this fight's gone better than expected. Is it just that Stalker Colossus kind of sucks? I don't even know at this point. Well, Lings on the way. The problem is Serral can't afford Banelings at the moment, so he's not getting the Banes up that he might need to really make this fight happen. Like, if he had another 20 Banelings right now, maybe I'm a believer, but these Colossus are still alive, and PartinG will walk through for a Game 1 victory on Submarine. Whew. And his decision at 12 pool didn't work out in game number 1. You know what he does? He says, let's do it again. Down a map, a second 12 pool. It's Serral. In the bottom left-hand side, our Blue Protoss player is PartinG. There it drops down, probe moving across. Probe going up to the upper right-hand side. We do see that spawn and pool about to finish, and again, PartinG deciding to scout for a second time. I'm interested in Serral's choice. I mean, PartinG has died so often to like an early 12 pool. Serral 12 pool in the second time feels kind of crazy. In fact, it feels absolutely ridiculous to me that he's going for this a second time around. Well, here we go. Ling's going to start across the map, and I just wonder how this looks any different to the last game, where PartinG followed up with an attack that was very difficult for Serral to hold. I mean, what stops PartinG just doing the exact same again? Things with a probe in amongst them. Probes down here to help protect as well. No second gateway this time, so this time PartinG changes up his defense. Gives us a little bit more to talk about, right? It's going to be one gateway instead of two. So he doesn't get as many units out initially. Really means it's important to keep that Zealot alive. The pylon in the wall is going to be in a bit of trouble here at the moment. Serral's going for it, so he's gone for this pylon in the wall. He's going to get the pylon in the wall. The Zealot nearly went too far forward there. Serral consistently looking for the grab. He kills the pylon, kills the probe, and now Serral backs away home. I mean, we're left questioning again. I mean, this time he arguably does a little bit more, yes, but also the Nexus is faster from PartinG, so getting a little bit more done doesn't necessarily put him into any of a better position than he was in last time. Well, Queen at the front from Serral hanging around, and this Adept gets pushed away. Just going to see the Stalker is on the way up from PartinG, and Adept goes into the main, and this is where Serral will start to lose a drone or two, and maybe... Oh, he throws the wrong drone into the Spore Crawler. See, this is the issue right now. Serral is going to lose 3 workers again. Exactly what happened last time. I feel like these 3 workers went down even faster this time, so... If you can defend this without losing the 3 drones, obviously then I like it much more naturally, but... You know, then you're looking at maybe 27 versus 24 workers. You can maybe argue that some things are going okay here. You know, he forced a shield battery and a pylon. Probes weren't Corona boosting out early. Right now, I just don't like it again. So, Twilight Council, Robo Facility. What's the follow-up this time from PartinG? Last time he decided to go for Blink. It's funny because this is the map where a lot of players have been going 2-base Blink all-in. Goblin especially, I think, probably popularized it a bit in the DreamHack SC2 Masters. He did that in the qualifiers in the main event. Yeah, there's the Blink. I mean, honestly, I don't see why you would change it up in general. And you've got to remember, because the Nexus was earlier, this is only going to be more powerful this time around. Serral starts up Link speed, so he gets that going. Third hatchery drops on the right-hand side into the third location. A couple of creep tumors at the front. A lot of people in the chat saying they think Serral has 12 pulling because of PartinG's cheese. I mean, what if you just go pool first against PartinG's cheese? I mean, there's other ways to deal with it than a 12 pool, which puts you just behind. I mean, it's a gamble, right? Like, the thing is, that's not what Serral does. Serral doesn't usually take risks of blind gambles, right? Because a 12 pool puts you behind if your opponent just scouts and sees what's up. Is Serral going to all in off roaches and lings, I think. But, like, you know, if you just go, like, there's other ways to do it where, you know, Serral takes calculated risks, and I just don't see what the calculation is on a 12 pool a second game in a row. Especially when you're down a game. I mean, that feels like you're just relying so much on PartinG being PartinG, right? Which, yeah, a lot of the time he is. Maybe it just didn't play out, but are there not other ways to deal with a 12 pool? To deal with it than a 12 pool? Because it just feels the 12 pool puts you at the other extreme of just being so all in yourself. I don't know. Link speed about to finish up as these Stalkers are here. There's a lot of gas in the bank. Serral is basically pure Lings right now. He's supply block, but he does have more Overlords already building. Stalkers don't have Blink just yet, but there is obviously Warp Prism Micro available. And now Blink finishes up. But there's so many Lings that these Stalkers are just going to be overwhelmed, so Serral just shuts it down. This time just doesn't bother with the Roaches, just pure Lings, and he gets rid of the Stalkers before they become an issue. Now this is going to get weird for PartinG, because now PartinG has built into a less than ideal follow-up that's meant to deal damage and slow Serral down and put him into a good position, and now it's not done anything himself. Alright, just gonna see this Prism continuing up the left side, and just going to be seeing the Lings. I'm going to keep track of it. Yeah, PartinG just going to try and take a third base, and Serral will see it. But, man, this is... yeah, look at PartinG. He's so afraid as well. He's building shield batteries before the Nexus. Because he's terrified of the follow-up kind of Roach Ling attack. Can't blame him, because this was a disaster losing that many Stalkers. That was 4 Stalkers lost. And again, it's now you're kind of stuck on Blink Stalkers as your tech, and they're just not meant to be good in the longer game here. Lings are going to come in. Do you even get this third base up? I mean, some of these are just going to go straight onto the Nexus. The battery is obviously going to do a good job healing, and there's a cancel, so you lose the third base already, and that's what Serral's just going to look to keep on denying this time around. Lings coming back in, looking to deny the probe. Does not want to let the third base up. You can keep PartinG on 2 bases as long as possible. It just makes it much easier for Serral, who takes a worker lead, melee upgrade, Baneling Nest, and a Roach speed upgrade all coming through. Lings back out from the front around to the top side. Extra Roach is building up here from Serral, so getting that going. We do have the prison with a few Stalkers inside. Over on the left, Overseer of Serral wants to come back in, scout into the main. Lings looking for a bit of a surround on these rocks. Beautiful stuff. Nothing more exciting than Lings trying to kill rocks, but looks like they aren't even going to go for the kill. They just collected there. And obviously now you're still just mass Stalkers. Okay, you've got Colossus on the way. But this time you're going into the same position as last game in terms of your army composition. With Serral in a completely different setup, right? Serral, okay, he's going for the same army comp, but he's way ahead on workers. He's going to have way more, much faster. And this time I really do think you just see PartinG's army get kind of rolled by the amount of what Serral has, because it's just not that good in army composition. And we've seen that day in and day out. What a catch this is. The Lings were already there as PartinG tries to blink back. Serral gets straight in on top of the Stalkers. He's going to clean out most of the army once again, as PartinG probably thought he was safe, but Serral was a step ahead already. And Serral takes down so many Stalkers once again. There's now 11 Stalkers lost in the game, and not a single unit other than a Ling has died in terms of combat units. No Roaches or Ravagers have fallen. Now Banelings are setting up, and PartinG, he's got to deal with this Ravager pressure coming in. He's got 1 Colossus, a Disruptor building. But just like a Disruptor from the start, like he did last time around as well, I think. First of Val's on the shield battery in the front. I mean, the batteries in the back are just not going to protect this main army, right? Unless he's going to eventually kite back behind there. Then you're kind of pushed into a corner. Bane speed a few seconds from finishing. Serral has got reinforcements coming across. He'll back away before Bane speed is done. Could just get more Banes before going again. Obviously, the Disruptor is now out, so PartinG can use this perhaps to get some miracle connections, some Hail Mary shots that might just save him. It's probably got to be the plan. Ling, Ravager, Bane up to the top side. Extra Banelings already morphing in here, and this army of PartinG goes back along to the left. So moving back over there. Trying to stay active, trying to stay up wherever possible. Disruptor shot comes in. Serral has to split on the fly. He gets 4 Ravagers with the Disruptor. That's a hell of a way to start. If there's a way to win this, it's probably by that. Extra Banelings coming through. The Nexus will fall. The Banelings going on the Colossus. I mean, Serral kind of loses a bunch of army. He's rebuilding, but Banelings into the natural expansion. Oh no, he's going to kill so many of these probes. Maybe he could have even gotten more at the end. He kills 16, and Serral will rebuild. I was a little afraid of what, the army that was lost there from Serral, but PartinG does not protect his mineral line, and now on 42 workers, does lose the Nexus. I mean, maybe again the counterattack, the push across from PartinG could be scary, but PartinG is terrified to move onto the map. And Serral is now given too much time, right? Because now he just sets up 5th base on the way. There are 75 drones have come into play. Ling's already looking to run by this Nexus yet again. And Serral gets control of this one and put himself into a fantastic position. A few Lings get caught. But again, there's not really any reason for Serral to let up the pressure here. +2 melee and +1 missiles on the way out. The Spire is building infestation bit, follow-ups, options. So many choices for Serral right now. As he pulls his army back to the middle of the map, the Bane Ravager Lings the Roaches. Well, he's going to send these units in, clean out the rocks, open up some space here just in case PartinG does get to the middle of the map with the push. Going to make this much more engageable for Serral. Much easier to chase that army down as well, especially now he's got creep through the center of the map as well. He wants to make use of it. Earlier is actually kind of nice to have these rocks up, because if PartinG's here and he has to retreat away, he has to go through the choke points. Now Serral's thinking much more aggressively, and he's just going to clean up all these rocks, clean up everything. Open up the map. I mean, he has a large army now as well, so it's much better for him to have this map open. Well, PartinG gets back to the third base, creeps over the 50 probe marker. Spire about to complete in the main base, so that will be done in just a moment. Hive still building here on the natural. Bane Ravager moving around, extra corruptors in production, missile upgrade on the evolution chamber. Warp Prism being followed by the Ling Ravager army. I mean, this Disruptor's just not found any chances, right? Like, it had one really good connection when Serral was being aggressive. Looks for one there, doesn't find it. Serral building Corruptors, so he's got an answer to Colossi. I mean, that's part of what he's waiting for. He's going to have a Hive so he can build Vipers. Again, Serral didn't need to attack if PartinG's stuck on a very late third base. Eventually, PartinG's going to attack into him. And he's got the time to set up all the tech options he wants to help deal with this army. PartinG's on a massive sentries. He's got 13 sentries. This army really doesn't deal damage. This army just bullies its way into fights which it outnumbers in because of the sentry force fields, but I'm not actually convinced that'll be enough. Prism lost already, so you're going to lose micro potential. Now you know about the Corruptors. Obviously, the Stalkers may be able to protect the Corruptors. These Lings are going to go for the Stalker at the front. That'll at least force a warp in defensively. Lings just going to back away. They get blinked on. I mean, Serral kind of frees up supply, but he just makes more Lings. He's also on 62 Banelings, friends. Talking about Banelings, I apologize. A little late to the Banes crashing in for 18 probes on the third base. Oh, everything going wrong. So he's going to go up to 78 Banelings as 20 more complete. And 78 Banelings are about to roll at this army, which just blinked into it. Well, the force fields come down to save the day for the moment. Corrosive Bars are going to open those up again, though. A few Banelings flanking don't do much. If there's ever a start that PartinG wanted, it was probably that one. Actually went okay for him in the end. The PartinG continues up the map. Serral has so much money to rebuild with. PartinG's army supply is huge. And that might just be it. Is that going to be enough? Corruptors are going for the Warp Prism. Will shut down reinforcements. Oh, it's not going to be enough at all, is it? PartinG's army supply was huge because of the lack of workers, but it just doesn't matter. Oh, there's some Stalkers left, but they just aren't good enough. And the composition just wasn't what it needed to be for that many Banelings. Serral's army was just so viable with that many Banes in play. GG's, and Serral ties the subway going to a game. That is actually a crazy stat. Serral and PartinG have never played an official series of best of 3 or higher. And the only time they've ever played 5 years ago, Serral took a map in Nation Wars. What? Hello? How did that happen? That's actually kind of crazy. That is not a stat I was expecting. Man, this is a sick matchup then. Okay, well, in the bottom left-hand side, he's made some drones. It's not a 12 pool. It's Serral. In the top right-hand side, our blue Protoss is PartinG. Again, neither player can finish top of the group. Even if PartinG wins this game, he will have the same map score as Zest, but he will not have the head-to-head victory. So Zest guaranteed first in this group. This is a fight over second place and a position in the winner's bracket. Who will take it? PartinG scouts, no nonsense here. Serral will go hatchery first. No nonsense from him either. No hatchery block attempt from here from PartinG. I'm really interested to see what PartinG does now in what is actually our first regular opening game. Does he go Twilight and DTs? Does he go Twilight and Glaives? Does he go for the Stargate, which is regaining momentum over in Korea as well? Probe gets up to the high ground, patrols a little bit. The Nexus from PartinG on the natural expansion. I'm just going to be seeing the Overlords getting into position. Nothing crazy so far. Hopefully setting up for a nice long game of PvZ here on Eternal Empire. Hoping for something lengthy, fun, entertaining. Just hoping we get a little bit of awesome in amongst all of this, really, right? Like, hoping we have some fun games as we do see the Cybercore coming through on the front. The Overlord from Serral will continue forward. Twins continue to build. The Ling's coming through and just going to be seen. Our Overlord of Serral is going to creep over to have a peek into the natural expansion. It is funny because, again, you get to like a game 3 of the series now, and oftentimes when you get to a game 3, players have picked up information about each other. Players are, thinking about what they did in the previous games. And honestly, it's all out the window here because the last game set up in such a different start that you can't really compare these now. I mean, maybe later on you can be like, well, PartinG liked to go Colossus, but actually, did he like to go Colossus, or was that just the follow-up to playing Stalkers? You know, is PartinG really going to play Stalkers here? Probably not, because Stalkers are basically a 2-base all-in, and that felt like a reaction to having held off a 12 pool successfully. And Serral is going to play no-nonsense Overlord speed before Ling speed, so you will look for scout and information as a priority. Wants to keep up to date with exactly what PartinG is doing in these early stages. Just a second gateway there from PartinG. Is that a full wall? That looks like a full wall to me, guys. Is it a gap just up here on the top side? Looks like it might be just a little bit of a thinner gap. It's going to be the Dark Shrine off the Twilight Council. So, second gate into Dark Shrine. Serral will scout immediately. Again, the power of this Overlord speed guarantees the information. Of course, it does slow you down. It's one less queen you can build. It's 100 extra gas early in the game. Minus 100 gas this early in the game comes at the expense of minerals you could use otherwise. But you get perfect information. You see the Dark Shrine. You should not be caught off guard here. And a response to this is just a Lair and a Roach Roaring. That's the go-to response to a DT drop. Right, you just get up into the Roaches to fight off the Archons. The Lair gives you the Overseer. Obviously, you need some Spore Crawlers just before then. And Serral will see if it's going to be his choice. As he backs off, and yes, PartinG just going to take a very fast third base. Now, it's still only 2 gates, so even that's not normal, and it's also no Robo facility, so it's actually going to be not an Archon drop at all, right? And I wonder if Serral can identify that, or if he assumes the Robo is elsewhere. He sees the speed of the third Nexus, and I think that should be a sign that this is obviously going to be not a Robo already, because now that third Nexus is super quick. So there's the Lair on the way. The Roach Roaring still hasn't been built. Gets it now alongside the Lair. Yeah, it's only 2 gates. It's only going to be 2 DTs. And there's not going to be any Warp Prism play to take them anywhere super kind of exciting or super crazy to try and outplay PartinG at all. To outplay Serral at all. It's going to go Blink as a follow-up. And PartinG playing some wild PVZ here. It's going to be some wild PVZ. Blink as a follow-up to this. I mean, it's already a little bit of an interesting setup as the Overlord goes in. You see some hallucinations. You scout through. Obviously, the Stalker count's already kind of high. You're going to see the Twilight being chrono boosted. You see the Forge on the way as well, and that gives you the idea of, okay, he's going later into this game. He's looking for upgrades. Serral gets a melee upgrade nice and early, so he doesn't have to mess around. And I think if Serral gets away with not building Roaches, which he's doing, because he doesn't have an Archon drop to deal with, he probably just goes straight into Lingbane Hydra. The only other option could be maybe Aspire, but I mean, Blink on the way, but you expect it to be Blink, right? In that way, it would actually be a bit of a blind advantage. It is just going to be Roach speed. So you will just go kind of Lingbane Roach for the moment. Obviously, no Baneling Nest yet, but that should be just an eventuality more so than anything else. Just waiting for that to come through. And there's MLA, the Roach is coming up. A couple of Extractors still building, and the 4th hatchery. Out down on the low ground, the Overseer of Serral moves through into the middle of the map. The extra gate's just building up, and the Blink is going to be continuing through as well. Cannon gets set up, and our Overlords continue to spread out. The few Lings of Serral go to the top left-hand side. The Dropper Lord setting up, and 7 more Roaches in production. Getting nest from Serral on the 3rd base, and just seeing our Lings picking away at these rocks. Rocks will be taking some damage as the Roaches from Serral out the front, and again the Robo Bay dropping down as a follow-up here, so we'll be able to start up some Colossi in the near future. I mean, this is just how PartinG plays. This is how his PVZ, this is what his PVZ looks like. Definitely not kind of the go-to, definitely not the norm. In this case, I actually kind of like it just being kind of Roaches instead of Hydras, because Hydras kind of, it's just going to be a bit sturdier against the Colossus setup. Doesn't +1 missiles alongside the melee upgrade. Overseer just continuing to pick up info. Serral refusing to be caught off guard by anything right now. Hallucination sets up and pop onto the map. I mean, again, there should not be an army which is really looking to deal damage because he's teching up heavily behind it. Yeah, he's about to hit +1 melee, but +1 attack, but he's gone into a Robo Bay, right? He's ready to build Colossi. And Serral, it's going to force him into a few Banes, but he's already on 81 drones. Like, how many more drones do you really want to build as Serral? He's already building the Infestation Pit. He finds out about the Colossi. I wonder what he does next. He did see the Robo Bay. I wonder when he decides Aspire is maybe somewhat of a necessity as this Baneling drop sets up through the top side. Looks like it wants the main. It's going to turn into the third. It's instantly going to force a pro pull away there. But now, of course, PartinG knows about it. Now, Overlord's hurting, so it's going to be a little bit tougher to really move it into a position. Hive building on the main base, and we still just have this army of Serral out over the right side. He actually looked like he came back in with the Overlord, but took a couple extra shots. PartinG has to be careful. The Stalker's out ahead of him there. Oh, really? All bows just to make sure it doesn't come back. The Prism looked like he wanted to dive, but dive where? Like through the center of creep spread? Not going to achieve anything there, and there is creep taking its place all over the map at this stage. Hive halfway done. Roachbane Ravager moving forward, and those Stalkers from PartinG start blinking back. Lings are running through. They're starting to get a couple surrounds. +2 attack halfway done. Extended Thermal Lance about to complete. These Lings are going to be picking away at these pylons. So a couple of the pylons on the 12 o'clock go down already. Sentries and Immortals. They are here immediately to push the Zerglings away. And again, just the Stalker army of PartinG wants to come down the right side. So kind of sets up on the right, and obviously we'll see what PartinG wants to make his play look like. I mean, it's not his whole army though, right? So you should never really be committing here. But the question is, what if he gets caught off guard? What if these Stalkers don't have an exit plan? They don't see this area up here right now. He goes even deeper. Oh no, he's gonna blink. The Lings, can they catch? If he can slow the Stalkers down enough, then obviously the Banes start rolling in. The Banes too get there. The blink is ready. The other units should be making their way to try and save the day right now. Lings are gonna cut off half the Stalkers again. And it feels like free pickings for Serral at the moment. Finally, PartinG's reinforcements get here to protect those Stalkers, but a lot of them went down already, and Serral just kind of, eats up what he wants. PartinG taking the high ground fourth base, definitely a sign of, being a little bit afraid, honestly, right? High ground fourth base is typically something which is a little bit easier to defend, so it's generally something you set up with the intention of being... This Dropper Lord will get shut down now. That's an overseer in the main. It's generally something you take if you're a little bit more afraid of being able to hold on. And I get it, right? You're playing against this, Ravager, Bane style. It makes sense to take the high ground fourth. It's nice to take the rich Vespene gas, but it's not worth losing the game over because this open area here is just way harder to defend than this choked up, ramped base. So that will be PartinG's choice of fourth as we see Serral going into the Ultralisk Cavern. It's going to complete in just a few moments' time. So the Ultralisk Cavern coming up to completion in the next couple of seconds here. Stalkers continuing along this right-hand side with the Colossi in tow. Couple of sentries also. More Stalkers warping in from PartinG as we have the Lings back across, far left, ready to counter. They could hit this base. There's only a couple cannons there. No shield batteries, so you can't super battery anything. PartinG pushing down this ramp. Good force field. Big arc at the moment. Colossi get abducted in. Well, more force fields coming down. The Banelings crashing into them. PartinG across the map will lose this fourth base, I think. There's not really much he can do there. Probably hasn't even realized it with the amount of force fields he's got to pay attention to right now. This entire mineral line up on the top gets ravaged, so PartinG's basically all in, continue to try and push on forward. Will he be able to do anything? Another Colossus abduct as the Ravagers get blinked on top of. Serral is just rebuilding into Ultras and Lings, and this is not an army to fight Ultras and Lings. It really is not by any stretch of the imagination, especially not on creep. So PartinG right now probably feels okay, and Serral's like, yeah, you know what, I'll give up this base, mine most of the gas off it anyway. Just gonna mine over the far left-hand side. There's just no splash damage left, and without splash damage, this just feels like an impossible task. There's Lings coming in from every side, even a couple Stalkers over here get caught, as PartinG is on the all-in march to try and win this game. Can he somehow do it? The Ultras aren't ready yet. We can get rid of these Immortals. It's going to make the Ultras that much better, of course. Okay, and the biggest issue is that all of these fights are going to happen on creep, so it doesn't even matter that there's no anabolic synthesis. These Ultras are just going to run in. They're going to have a great time. There's so much Serral at the moment with Lings across the map still dealing damage, and PartinG just can't pay attention to it all. He's trying to save these Stalkers. He's trying to kite against Ultras. He will blink, but there's still creep there for the Ultras to keep on chasing. The Lings are broken through, finally being handled by some Warpins. Are they being handled, or are they handling the Warpins? Looks like the Warpins aren't having the best of time, as again, the Ultras off creep here probably aren't going to be great, but now the Infest is on the way up, and Serral is continuing to move himself towards a monster of an army eventually with fungal growth to lock down the Stalkers. And it looks as though Serral, denying the fourth base during all of this as well, is probably going to take himself into enough of a lead. Stalkers down, picking off a creep tumor. There's more Stalkers warping in from PartinG. here underneath the prism. And this PartinG army continues down to the south, looking to push in. Lings, Ravagers, Ultras setting up. A couple of spike throw shots going down. The Ultras trying to flank in from the top side. The Stalkers blink into Ultras. Well, the Stalkers are two-shotting the Ultras, and they're not having the great time. But again, what happens when fungal growths come into play? And that's why the Infestors are such a great next step from Serral, who still has bases around the map. Re-expand into that forward base. He was, he lost during this fight. He gave up, essentially, because he knew he couldn't defend it. I mean, meanwhile, PartinG long-distance mining what was his fourth base for, what, half a minute or so? Things continue to roll up. The Stalkers being chased. We're going to be running straight into this. These Stalkers trying to save. I mean, PartinG is microing his heart out right now, trying to do anything possible to keep this alive. But my friends, it just probably won't be enough. He counts an Infestor or two. That's nice, but then those Stalkers are forfeit. And that's going to be GG. Serral is going to take the awesome series here against PartinG to get the 2-1 victory, and he will advance to the winner bracket of this group in second place. And that maybe lets him play against Reynor. That rivalry could continue. GG is well played. Serral 2-1 over PartinG. Thanks for watching. If you do watch this on YouTube, hit that follow, like, subscribe button.